Well, I tell you, I can't think of a better way to spend Christmas. For those of us who get the luck to live in Montana, we have the luck to be home with our families for Christmas. I can't think of a better way to spend Christmas than to get a chance to check in and to hear from some of our incredible men and women currently deployed away from their families. They're spending Christmas away from their families. They're serving our country overseas in Afghanistan right now as we speak. And what better way to get to spend Christmas than to get a chance to chat with these fine men and women. I tell you, we've got a great show coming up for you here this morning on Montana Talks. We've got soldiers currently deployed with the 495th CSSB over in Afghanistan, several soldiers from all across Montana that are going to join us here on the show. So it's a great opportunity for us to just check in with them, see how they're doing, share what they can with, what they're getting a chance to do over there in Afghanistan, how morale is, and especially they got a great crew of Montanans back there. We heard from Senator Steve Daines earlier this month after he got back from a trip over there, talked about, running into all the Bobcat fans and running into all the Grizz fans and just the great Montana morale that they've got over there in Afghanistan. But, for those of us especially who we get to be home with our families this Christmas, let's remember and honor those families back here who don't have mom or dad at home with them this Christmas, and those men and women who are sacrificing on our behalf back there. Well, I'll tell you what, we're just going to jump right into the program this morning because we've got several Montana National Guard soldiers joining us live from Afghanistan right now on the show. So we'll go to the phone line. I think they're going to be kind of passing the phone around a little bit. So we've got several soldiers that are going to be joining us. Who do we got first up this morning with us on the phone lines there? How are you doing?
Good, Aaron. This is Specialist Lonnie Shedron. How you doing this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. Hey, well, thanks for your service and your sacrifice. I understand, in addition to serving in the National Guard, you're from Kalispell originally, and you're a student in Missoula when you get home.
Yeah, currently I'm pursuing my electrical engineering degree. Looking forward to getting back home to finish up some credits.
Yeah. So is this your first deployment overseas to Afghanistan?
It is.
How's it going so far?
Right, it's great, Aaron. Like you said, we got a great crew of people over here working under some really good leadership and getting a lot of things accomplished over here. It's been a good time so far.
You got anybody back in Kalispell or friends in Missoula that you go to school with that you want to say hello to this morning?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to say hey to my buddy Trace and Dan and say hello to the Bedwell family. They've been supporting me since I've been over here.
Yeah. Now, when you say supporting, I'd imagine you guys have gotten a care package or two during your time over there, huh?
Oh, a couple, for sure. And we got a couple of cool organizations, one from Bozeman and Sox, sending all of us a bunch of care packages.
So what's day-to-day life like for you? I know you may not be able to share everything that you do overseas with operational security and all that, but what's day-to-day life like for you and the other soldiers over there?
It depends. For me, I'm a unit supply specialist, so it really depends. I do a lot of receiving, issuings, and storage of all sorts of random classes of supplies. But usually we wake up, come into the office, check our email, and just support soldiers from daily needs. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what,
the guy to know is always the supply guy. That's the guy. You got to make that guy your best friend, if you want to get you want to get the gear, the equipment that you need for you or your Joes out there. Well, Lonnie, stand by because we want to hear more from you. We're talking with the great men and women of the 495th CSSB currently deployed in Afghanistan. They're joining us live from Afghanistan right now on Montana Talks. We'll go back to Lonnie, Kalispell, Montana native, going to school in Missoula, and several more soldiers right after this. And first up, we're talking with Specialist Lonnie. Lonnie, is it Shedron? Is that how you pronounce your last name out of Kalispell?
Yes, sir. That's perfect.
All right, great. So CSSB, now that's the Combat Sustainment Support Battalion. Did I get that right?
Yep.
All right. And now I understand a lot of you guys are kind of at Bagram Air Force Base, if I'm not mistaken, but really you got men and women scattered all over Afghanistan. It seems like some people back here in Montana, we may only hear some of the bad news from Afghanistan from time to time, but I know in chatting with Senator Steve Daines, he got a chance to pay a visit to you guys earlier this month. He said, man, they've got such a great crew of Montanans. You know, they've got Cat fans, they've got Grizz fans. So he said, you know, you guys really, because you got such, you know, because you're a Montana unit, it really helps keep up the morale. What's it like being over there with a bunch of fellow Montanans?
It's really cool. You know, we can relate a lot of things. You know, sometimes we'll spend the day even just talking about how we can't wait to get back to go rafting or go hiking. You know, it makes it cool being able to realize we'll go home, and just being familiar with people that we've been preparing to deploy with over the past year makes it definitely easier.
Is it kind of cool looking out? One of the things I liked about Afghanistan compared to Iraq was you can look out. Well, we were, you know, and you see mountains, so at least you can kind of trick yourself in thinking that you might be home from time to time. Do you get a view from?
Yeah, that's true.
It's
now we got some snow in the mountains, and it is a little bit like home. Definitely not the same, less trees, but like you said, it's definitely familiar.
All right. Well, Lonnie, anything you want to tell folks across Montana?
No, we all here from the Montana Guard appreciate all the support and love that we're getting back into the States, and can't wait to get home, Aaron.
All right. Well, hey, God bless you this Christmas, you and everybody else over there, Lonnie. So thanks for your service and your sacrifice, and to your family as well. Let's see. I think who do we got next up joining us? Is it Specialist Miranda Metz? Is that who's up next?
Yes, Miranda Metz. Sir.
Oh, hey, how are you doing, Miranda?
Good. How are you?
You don't have to call me sir. We'll call you ma'am. How about that? Because we're saluting you.
Oh, that's okay.
We're saluting you guys today. So Miranda, you're out of Kalispell as well, huh?
Yes.
All right. Well, who do you want to say hello to back here in Montana?
My husband Talon and my coworker Jackie Hewitt.
Yeah, I just can't imagine the sacrifice that they're making. You know, with you being overseas while they're back here, and so yeah, it's just we want to wish them a Merry Christmas and thank them for their sacrifices too. So now what's life like when you're not deployed with the National Guard?
I also work full time for the National Guard, so I do a lot of very similar things back home.
Oh, great. So and what's your job overseas right now? Tell us a little about what you can about what you do currently in Afghanistan.
Right now I run the shipping section in our supply support activity, or the SSA. So anyone that orders any sort of item that they're not located here in Bagram, I sign the paperwork and get it shipped out to them.
So sometimes is it kind of like, because you're working in a warehouse, do you sometimes forget where you're even at sometimes? Like you could be in Kalispell for all you know?
Sometimes, I look out the big bay door and I see the mountains like we mentioned earlier, and it does look a lot like home. Yeah.
What do you tell, friends and family back home who, they don't know what it's like over there at all? And especially, they're probably concerned, they see this story out of Afghanistan or that story out of Afghanistan, and sometimes it's easy for people to assume the worst. What do you tell them, maybe to kind of ease their concerns that they might have?
I just let them know that we do have great people here. When it comes to like security and leadership, they check in on us, they make sure we're being safe, and we're all just staying really vigilant and keeping our head on a swivel. So it's we've had no problems so far.
Yeah. Well, I know we've got listeners in Kalispell on the great KJJR radio station as well, and you work is that where you work also now, out of Kalispell?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know there's just incredible supporters of the National Guard and our troops and our veterans all throughout the Flathead Valley. So I know there's a lot of folks that are thinking about you. Anything you want to say to the folks all across, not just the Flathead Valley, but across Montana?
Just thank you for your support and your thoughts and prayers, and we're thinking of you here too.
Yeah. What any big plans? I don't even know. I'm not sure what what Afghanistan really looks like now. It's been 10 years really since I was there, and so I guess what's life like? I don't know if you can tell us where you're at, but what's life like just living in Afghanistan right now compared to maybe I know it's hard for you to compare it maybe to 10 years ago, but paint the picture for what life is like there now.
Life here is, well, one of the great things about Afghanistan is the seasons are the same as Montana. So it's winter here now. It's cold. So that's kind of nice because I love winter.
Are you guys starting to see a little, in addition to snowfall on the mountains, are you starting to see a little light at the end of the tunnel that you'll be home soon?
We are, yeah. We have just a few months to go, and we're keeping our heads in the game, but we know that the end is in sight.
Yeah. What's it like? Because for some other soldiers, they might, deploy overseas and they might be attached to some other unit. And so they end up meeting, serving alongside a bunch of people that they didn't know before. They quickly get to be very, close friends with them. Or active duty soldiers who are there with people from all over the country. What's it like from your standpoint to be there with a group of Montanans?
I think it's really great. I think Montanans have a very similar mindset. We work hard and we play hard. So everybody here has a great work ethic, but we also find some time for a little bit of fun when we can, and it's just nice to be able to relax together but also work really hard together.
Yeah, all right. Well, Specialist Miranda Metz out of Kalispell, deployed right now in Afghanistan, joining us from Afghanistan. Great to talk with you. Thanks for your service and sacrifice, and for your family and friends' sacrifice back home as well. I know they're missing you this holiday season.
Thank you for your support.
All righty. Well, we're going to take another very quick break here on Montana Talks, and then we're going to continue with our live coverage from Afghanistan. The great men and women of the 495th CSSB of the Montana National Guard joining us from Afghanistan. I think next up, we've got Sergeant Mark Fallon out of Missoula is going to join us right after this. So quick break, more Montana Talks with our men and women from Afghanistan after this. Aaron Flint here with Montana Talks. We've got several soldiers from across Montana currently serving in Afghanistan. That's how they're spending your Christmas. So if you think you got it rough this Christmas, if it's not going your way, you didn't get the gift you wanted, or maybe you overcooked the turkey a little bit, don't worry about it. Hey, these folks are overseas, they're away from their families, they're sacrificing for us, and it sounds like they're still keeping a smile on their face, so we can still keep a smile on our face back here in Montana, can't we? Really great to get a chance to hear from these fine men and women, Montana National Guard soldiers currently in Afghanistan. I think next up, we've got, is it Sergeant Mark Fallon out of Missoula? Is that you, Mark?
Yes, that is correct, Aaron.
Hey, well, thanks for your service. Great to chat with you. So tell us what you do back home when you're not deployed overseas.
Back home, I also work in the communication field, which is what I do work in on the Montana Guard side. I work for a company in Missoula called Univision Computers as a help desk technician there, and field various calls and support tickets daily with issues from printers, phones, and computers to other end-user errors that might exist in the IT field.
Oh, very cool. That help desk guys, those are key. If you got your computer in front of you, if there's one number that you have taped to that computer, it's the help desk number. It doesn't matter, private sector, military, whatever job you're doing, right? You're like, is it kind of fun being the commo guy? Because as long as everything's running, nobody cares. They're not thanking you. Hey, great, everything's running. But the moment all of a sudden their computer doesn't work, it's like all of a sudden it's a crisis, right? And so they're calling you.
That is correct. Very similar to supply.
Yeah.
Everybody needs you most of the time, except for when they don't.
That's true. Yeah. Well, I know I was chatting with. We had a Marine Corps veteran in on the show yesterday. And, so of course we were talking, Army versus Marines. And then I was saying, well, when I was in Ramadi, Iraq back in 05-06, us Army Guard guys had one side of the river and the Marines had the other side of the river. But we, loved working with them. We took advantage of each other's resources. They had the canines and the air support, blah, blah, blah. And he said, oh, yeah, he's like, man, he said, we had these Army supply units that would come out, and every time they would roll through, they would take care of us and bring us maybe a hot meal or different things like that. So I tell you, these CSSB units are just an incredible resource, taking care of troops all over the place. You guys are kind of covering down on back there, huh?
Yes, that is correct. We do support a number of other units from active duty, guard, other guard, or fellow guard, and other reserve units, as well as some coalition forces support here and there as well. So there's a good mixture of, or there's a good amount of commingling between various units, which is positive interaction as well.
That's a good point about the international presence that we don't oftentimes hear about back here in Montana. We just think, we hear about U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan, but what's the international presence like? I know like in Kandahar back in the day, there, the Canadians would have their Tim Hortons coffee shop. The Brits had a little pool hall and coffee shop. Anything like that where you're at?
There's a little bit, not too much that we have immediate access or interaction with anymore. Some of that has changed a little bit from what I understand, but there still is a fair amount of interaction with other NATO forces and other forces that might be over here, whether it's from assisting them on the various sustainment levels or just other interaction at gatherings between the various nations for either work or for some rest and relaxation in the evening or when the mission is done for the current point in time.
So what's Christmas going to look like for you guys over there?
It's going to look like mostly a regular day of work, slightly shortened hours if mission allows, but we're going to have some nice food and some good unit camaraderie activities, and it'll be a good Christmas, even though it's not the normal Christmas.
Yeah. Well, that's I'm glad to hear that you guys will be well taken care of while you're over there. What's the most common question that you get from friends or family back here in Montana?
That's a tough one. I guess most of the time it's just weather. Weather's the easiest, but it's a lot similar to Missoula. So that's it's like we talked about earlier. That's an easy, relatable aspect that folks back home can understand is the mountain scenery and the weather and the climate and all that.
Have you tried any of the local food at all?
I did have a chance to experience some of the local rice meals and bread that they make over here, as well as some modified, or I guess the local Afghan take on the American pizza.
Oh, yeah.
The American version of pizza.
Was it like the naan bread converted into pizza? Is that how they do it?
I'm not sure. It was pretty good. I didn't really pay too much attention and analyze it that much, but it was good enough to do what it needed to.
Yeah. Well, I know you're in Missoula back here. Are there much hard feelings between the Grizz and the Cat fans following the game that maybe you got a chance to see from over there?
I don't talk to any Cats friends anymore.
That's right.
Good. Definitely, as far as the Grizz Cat football game went, they definitely turned it on in the second half, and I can't complain about that too much, other than we didn't play hard enough and do our job as we needed to. But it was still fun to razz each other back and forth over here and from when I had the conversations with friends and family back home. So.
Yeah, whatever it takes to make you feel like you're at home. I wonder if your Cat fan friends got much help from the help desk the next day, though. Hopefully they didn't have to call that.
Not if I was running it.
That's right. That's right. Well, hey, you got anybody back here in Montana you want to say hello to?
Yes. I'll say hello to my mom and dad, Mary Ruth and Jack Fallon, up in the Kalispell area where I'm from, and then my girlfriend Katie and our dog Zoe in the Missoula area.
Yeah.
Hello and happy Christmas, and I'll be home soon.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, Sergeant Mark Fallon, again, thanks for your service, and thanks to your family and friends out there, too, and look forward to seeing you home soon.
Excellent. Thanks for your support and having us on.
All righty. Yeah, good to hear from you. I think next up, we've got, I hope I pronounced his last name right, is it Staff Sergeant Josh Unden out of Billings. Josh, are you there?
I am, Mr. Flynn.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, did I pronounce your last name right there?
You did indeed.
Okay, so you're out of Billings, and we got folks tuning in via News Talk 95.5 and 970 KBUL this morning. Do you got anybody you want to say hello to? Back in Billings or elsewhere across Montana?
Well, in Billings, yes, I'd like to say hello to my lady, Reese Harper, and then also to the friends and family as well that I work with at Brian Hagen Construction.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you missed a mild winter for construction this year. Last year, if you were doing construction out there, it would have been, I saw guys on rooftops, 20 below, 30 below, still working in construction. Unfortunately, you're missing a pretty mild winter, 50 degrees so far this week.
I am, that's what I hear. I do recall last year I was putting windows in at that minus 20, what you were talking about.
Yeah. So, are you missing the minus 20 degrees and putting windows in yet?
Not so much, and honestly, I don't recall that I will be missing that at any point.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about what you do back home. What are you doing overseas? What can you tell us about your day-to-day life and work there in Afghanistan?
My day-to-day life, I also work in the communications section. I work with Mark Fallon, and together we organize and keep communication running, both on networking side and the radio side, what we can.
Yeah. How do you get a chance to unwind and kind of enjoy life a little bit while you're deployed overseas and away from everybody?
There's a lot of resources here, and at most locations that we have. We do have USOs spread across Afghanistan and whatnot. Most of the bases do have MWRs and whatnot. We can spend free time. They have a lot of activities between running and events even such as poker.
Nice, yeah. Well, that's great because I know I'd imagine it's probably scaled back to the larger presence that the U.S. had several years ago here. But it's good to hear that they've still got the support operations in place. Yeah, you mentioned MWR for those who aren't familiar with some of the terminology. It's like morale, welfare, and recreation. So think kind of like a rec center, basically, right? Pool tables, things like that. I don't know if they still have all that stuff over there or not.
That's correct. They do. They have ping pong tables and like you said, the billiards tables, and on top of that, they organize some other events.
Well, one of the things when we talked with Senator Steve Daines, he was talking about how, given the fact that you've got a Montana unit there and all these men and women from Montana, that there's Montana memorabilia everywhere you go. You can just tell you're in a little slice of Montana when you spend time with these men and women from the 495th CSSB. What kind of stuff do you have? What kind of a Montana presence do you have? Paint the picture a little bit for us there, because I'd imagine for some of those active duty soldiers that are from all over the country, and some of those international, there's probably an active duty soldier or two who's like, oh wait, you guys are from Montana? I'm from Montana. So what kind of Montana stuff you got back there?
Well, across our footprint, a lot of us have flags, some memorabilia as far as jerseys or whatnot, and I think it's semi-contagious because even outside of our unit or battalion, we've seen Montana flags up in other locations as well.
Oh, sure, yeah. And what what I'm trying to think how we can kind of communicate this with folks as well. From a Montana perspective, what do you miss the most?
Oh, about Montana, I think the mountains, the hiking, camping, fishing. There's quite a long list. Here we're not quite afforded the opportunity and the time to make available the resources out here. But looking forward to it when we get back.
Yeah, that's for sure. What another question I know Montanans might have, I'm trying to anticipate, hey, if people email me after the show, because I know there's a lot of people who like to support the troops by sending care packages and things like that, and don't try to be too humble here, but what are some care package items that you guys could really use? Because people are going to send them anyway, so don't just be too humble and say, oh, we're good, don't send us anything, because people are sending stuff. So what's some good stuff? What are some of the best things that you guys have been getting in care packages that we could include?
That's kind of a tough question because we've been supported so much that sometimes we take the amount available for granted. The day-to-day items, even as far as the smaller, just little granola bars and stuff like that, or jerky sent from a local store, some from Montana to remind us of home. has gone a long way, and we've spread that out to even the outlying locations as well.
That's a great point. So something with a Montana flavor to it, or like a Montana coffee mug, or Montana coffee or jerky, anything like that. Yeah, that's a great reminder. A great way to keep you focused on the end prize, making it home, but still doing your job on a day-to-day basis. Josh Unden out of Billings, Staff Sergeant, currently deployed in Afghanistan. 30 seconds to go. What do you want to tell folks across Montana?
Well, we miss everyone back home. We are looking forward to rekindling with them again and getting to spend some quality time and maybe even some off time before we return to work on our civilian side.
All right. Josh, Merry Christmas to you and yours, and thanks for your service and sacrifice, and to your family members and friends back home as well. Let us know if there's anything we can do for you, you or your soldiers, because I know there's folks back here who want to be able to help even in a moment's notice. Quick break here on Montana Talks. We'll have, I think we'll have Command Sergeant Major John Christensen out of Helena coming up right after this. Hey, Aaron Flint here with Montana Talks. Great to be with you. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, everybody out there, but especially our deployed service members and their families. Real quick, if you check out our website, montanatalks.com, as we get to head towards the new year here, I looked back at my top 10 blog posts of 2018. Ran the numbers, what were the top in terms of local unique visitors. So we've got everything from, hey, saying hello to our brand new statewide radio show, Montana Talks. We also said goodbye to a natural entertainer, our friend Dominic in the mornings in Bozeman. The Montana kids were 2 wins away from the Little League World Series. Sheriff David Clark joined us live in studio. President Trump made an unprecedented number of visits to the Treasure State. And what about that crazy wolf-like animal killed near Denton, Montana? Those were just some of my top 10 blog posts of 2018. You can check it out at montanatalks.com. But, I tell you, as we're doing this show here, I look out our windows from our studios here, top floor of the DoubleTree Hotel, and just a beautiful view. And so I'd encourage you, wherever you're at, where you're listening to this show right now, look out your window and look at that view here in Montana. I mean, I've got the Beartooth Mountains, the snow-capped Beartooth Mountains in front of me. I've got the sun coming up over the sunrise, over the Sacrifice Cliffs. I've got the Pryor Mountains here, the Yellowstone River off to my left. We are so blessed to live in Montana. But you know what? We're so blessed to live in America. But the reason we are so blessed to live in this country is because of the men and women who have defended it and who have sacrificed so that we can continue to enjoy this country. So I can't think of a better way to spend Christmas than to honor and get a chance to hear from men and women that are currently deployed overseas in Afghanistan right now. I think next up, we're talking with soldiers from the 495th CSSB deployed in Afghanistan right now as we speak, joining us from Afghanistan. I think next up, we've got the senior enlisted. We're talking about the top dog, the senior enlisted soldier for the 495th CSSB, Command Sergeant Major John Christensen, Johnny C, as I like to call him. John, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Aaron. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? It's fun to be able to call you Sergeant Major. Congrats on that, by the way.
Right? been a while, yeah. It's good, though.
Yeah, for those who don't, I had a chance to serve in the same unit as Johnny C, as I call him. Now he's Sergeant Major John Christensen, so just a great guy. I'll tell you what, if you need to get a boot applied to a certain place to get a certain thing done, a sergeant major is typically the guy to do it, but especially Johnny C. He can get the job done, that's for sure. So John, of course I know you, but, for those who aren't familiar with the military but are tuning in with us right now, I mean, just tell people what it means to be a command sergeant major, especially in a place like Afghanistan. That's a big weight on anybody's shoulders. What does it mean to be a command sergeant major?
Well, Aaron, it is a big weight on your shoulders, but because you're overall responsible for the health, welfare, morale of the troops in general. And it's not just our battalion, our guys just from Montana that we're in charge of. We have units underneath us from Puerto Rico, Fort Drum, New York, active duty folks, and then we have a bunch of contractors too. So between myself and Lieutenant Colonel Mike Beck, it's a pretty big responsibility. And our guys aren't just just local here working out of shops. We got them spread out across the footprint of Afghanistan. So it's a pretty big mission. It's really important, and it's a big deal keeping these guys motivated, keeping them in the game, making sure they're safe, making sure they have all the things they need to get by on their day-to-day duties that they got over here. So, but it's an honor to do it too, though, I'll tell you that.
I'll bet. Yeah, you mentioned Lieutenant Colonel Beck, so he's the battalion commander. So and so you're kind of, as the command sergeant major, you're the right-hand guy of the battalion commander. I understand. Is he a school teacher in Great Falls? Is that correct? His background?
Yes, he is. He's a high school science teacher.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know his kids are probably, not only his own kids, but his school kids are probably missing him back here in Montana as well. So I know you've been to Afghanistan before. Of course, as a command sergeant major, you've got a lot of years under your belt. And how is Afghanistan different now compared to, say, several years ago when you would have been there?
Well, obviously, the drawdown happened, so things are a lot different. And just the way we do business is different as well. A lot of places where we were that we're not at now, and some places that we've gone back to. So the overall deal, it's still the same mission, and that's really the main reason we're here is keeping the homeland safe, keep terrorist attacks from happening at home again.
Yeah.
And then obviously to help the Afghan government try to get on its own 2 feet. So.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know you, so we're talking with Command Sergeant Major John Christensen. He's joining us from Afghanistan right now, live on the radio. He's out of Helena, a full-timer, as I understand it, with the National Guard. So, you have National Guard soldiers who they have, a civilian job back home, construction or going to school full-time or, different jobs like that, running a business. And then there's some who work full-time supporting all those Guard soldiers. But for those who don't know, so Johnny, if I can tell some folks this guy, I'm going to just use the word. I know it's going to be Christmas, but this guy's a badass. He's got a Ranger tab. He's jumped out of airplanes. And so from an Army perspective, this CSM's got it here. So John, you've served in a variety of units under your career. From infantry, and airborne and things like that. And so talk about what it's like now being a CSM of a CSSB unit. I mean, you if anybody knows how important it is to get the supplies to the troops when they need it and what they need. So what's it like being now working with the great 495th CSSB soldiers?
Like I said, first of all, it's an honor and a privilege to do it. But I'll tell you what, being combat arms, which, like Aaron, for those that don't know, that's being in the infantry, the guy usually on the other end of the stick of this thing. It's a lot different, Here we're providing the warfighter everything they need to complete their jobs, and they can't do it without us, And being an infantry guy, you're always cussing the CSSB or the supply chain, saying, "Hey, where's my stuff? I need it right now. Where's my stuff? I need it right now."
Yeah.
But on this end, you're the guy. All the people behind the scenes is what these guys do. They're the guys that make the world go around for the warfighter out there. And the mission just couldn't happen without everything that these guys do to support those guys. And so it's a huge undertaking that we have to do over here. But it's they make it happen every day. They really bust their ass and get after it, and they do it with Montana pride. I'll tell you what. And
yeah.
It's great to watch them work.
It sounds like you got some aircraft or something moving in the background, or maybe the AC up and running there. But yeah, that's that pressure. I think that a lot of us may not understand of all those folks running those supplies. That the moment they know somebody needs something, that pressure of I've got to get this and I've got to get this out here right now. I'd imagine that's probably a day-to-day pressure for CSSB soldiers.
Definitely. Because there's a lot of networking that has to take place. A lot of, like I said, behind-the-scenes work, knowing who to get a hold of, where to get it from, and how to get it out to the guys. And we're always figuring out those different problems, of getting them, whether it's food or fuel or bullets, whatever it may be. But they make it happen every day.
Beans and bullets. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, John Christensen, Command Sergeant Major John Christensen with the 495th CSSB from Afghanistan. Who do you want to say hello to out here across Montana?
Well, Aaron, I got family spread across states. So I'll say hello to all of them. Most of my wife, Amber, back in Helena, and my 4 kids, JT, Zane, Brady and my 3-year-old daughter, JC, you know, and my parents and Helena. Merry Christmas to everybody. And, you know, everybody's staying as safe as we can be over here. We'll be home in a few months, and can't wait to get there.
Yeah, Kyle, that's the hardest part is not being with those little ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, before for me it was different because I was single doing this stuff back in the day on my previous deployments, and now I got the whole family there, and it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'll bet.
You forget all the things that the families go through back at home, you know, and it's they have a lot of sacrifices as well. So
that's for sure. Yeah. Well, John Christensen, man, always an honor to get to talk with you, and an honor. Thanks so much for your service and sacrifice over all these years. Anything you want to tell folks across Montana? Anything we missed?
Like most of these guys have said, you know, thanks for all the support that we get from Montana. I mean, the care packages have been flowing in since we've been here. We really appreciate it. It keeps us going every day. You know, but like I said, we're pretty safe over here. We make sure we're doing the right things and keeping everybody in check, and it makes all the difference in the world. But so does all the support from back home. So we really appreciate it.
All right, John. God bless you and all your soldiers, and thanks for what you do. And look forward to seeing you back here in Montana soon. Always a pleasure. Well, we're going to take a quick break. By the way, big thanks also to Captain Dan Bushnell for helping to line up all these interviews and these great men and women who are joining us here all morning long. Another very quick break here on Montana Talks, and then coming up next, very excited to talk with my old friend. Now he's a major. God, Tom, I didn't know you were that old. What the heck is going on? What's happening to us, buddy? Anyway, very excited to chat with Major Tom Figarelli out of Great Falls coming up next, joining us live from Afghanistan right here on Montana Talks. I just love this story. From a museum director in Great Falls to a soldier in Afghanistan. Hey, Aaron Flint here with Montana Talks. Pleased now to welcome to the show here, joining us live from Afghanistan, Major Tom Figarelli out of Great Falls. Tom, are you there?
Aaron, hey, how you doing? Good to hear your voice.
Yeah, good to hear from you, man. Yeah, Tom and I went to college together back in the day, so, man, just a great guy. And, I was excited to see that you were named the museum director for the CMR for all the Charlie Russell art fans out there. That's a great gig.
No, it is. I'm blessed with it, Aaron. It's a tremendous institution, and to be able to do that and serve the state and the Guard is just a great opportunity.
Yeah. So you just got promoted to major while you were overseas. So congrats on that. That's a pretty cool deal. Yeah. Yeah,
it was fun. It was on Veterans Day, and a pretty appropriate day to do it at 11 a.m., which was 100 years to the date of the armistice that ended World War I. So pretty fortuitous timing, really.
Yeah. Well, now are they going to expect you to actually, do you actually have to work now? Do you actually have to, be responsible now that you now that they promoted you?
Well, I'm hoping you're a field grade officer. You can push all the work off to people. So I'm going to see if it happens and give it a shot. Sergeant Major's great at it, so,
That's right. Yeah. Well, I got to kind of joke with you a little bit because I know people like to drink tea in Afghanistan. They like the chai, and so you're a museum director. I mean, you're probably pretty good at drinking tea already. So you got the pinky up, drinking some tea in Afghanistan. Right.
Well, we do have tea time. Once a day. Honestly, we do it about 1400, 2 p.m. for civilian time, and just a time for us to just rehash the day thus far and connect as a battalion staff. We don't do chai, more of an English tea, but it's just a nice time.
That's great. So now, is this your first trip to Afghanistan?
I made a short journey here at the beginning of 2018 to take a look at the unit we were replacing, but this is my first full deployment here.
Yeah, so what's it like on your first full deployment in Afghanistan?
It's really interesting, Aaron. In many ways, Afghanistan, from the parts of the country I've seen, is more developed than I thought it would be in terms of infrastructure. And I guess if you look at the investment that our nation has made in the past 18 years, you can appreciate that. But at the same time, there's a lot of just rudimentary parts of life here. When you're flying over different, cities or villages, just seeing stone walls, stone homes. And then the air conditions here right now for winter are just really poor because people are burning whatever they can to stay warm. So you get an appreciation of how much development yet needs to happen in this country.
Yeah, sure. You got anybody you want to say hello to back home in Great Falls or elsewhere across Montana?
Well, I sure do. do, Aaron. In fact, my wife and my son are driving to Missoula right now. So Amy and Ben. Hi, Ben. Hey, buddy. How you doing? And then my daughter Maggie. She's 2, so she's not the most avid listener you have yet, Aaron, but she's getting there.
Well, yeah. Well, she's probably got a higher IQ than the show host anyway already. So that's that's good. Well, I know I last ran into you. I think it was a couple years ago. Ran into you at Bory's, the great diner and supper club in Great Falls. And so you got a beautiful family. And so I know that's what we're all thinking about while you guys are over there. Just praying you guys stay safe and. Thankful for all your sacrificing, and I know it's hard on the families back home, but so we just can't thank you all enough this Christmas.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, and thank you for your service. I mean, you can appreciate what this is like, and yet, like John said, our families feel it, but we're just very fortunate to live in a state like Montana where people embrace you, and they embrace our families as much as they do us, and for that, we're certainly grateful.
Talk about the uniqueness of being what they call a citizen soldier, meaning like, hey, now you're in the uniform, you got that same U.S. Army name tape that the active duty soldiers got next to you, but then you come home and you go back to your job at the CMR Museum in Great Falls. Yeah,
it's an interesting dynamic. I think certainly as a leader in the Guard, you have to touch the Guard on a daily basis, whether it's just checking your emails or making a phone call. You can never forget about it. From one day to the next when you're working your civilian career, and then you deploy. And I think for a lot of us, it's sometimes you have to remember that you have a civilian career back home. Now, I've tried to stay in touch with my team at the museum as much as possible, but it is a unique circumstance. But I think one of the strengths we bring to the fight is that civilian experience, whether it be a professional experience that you can bring to the office from day to day, or just an experience that an active duty soldier won't have. It's certainly a strength that the Guard has, and I think it makes us a bit of a force multiplier.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, we got less than 2 minutes to go here, but Tom, when you and the rest of the crew make it back home from Afghanistan, let's come do the radio show from the CMR Museum and help welcome you home, but also promote all the great work being done at the museum and talk Charlie Russell. That's always a good time.
Done, Aaron. It'll be about Art Week in Great Falls, so our big auction. Let's make it happen.
Well, perfect. That sounds good. Sounds like good timing. You'll make it back. And if there's anything we can do to assist in the meantime, because I know it can be a challenge. You want to keep everything up and running with your civilian job back home. So if we can help out the museum on your behalf while you're still overseas, let us know. That's the beauty of radios. We get advantage of that microphone to promote some great things here in Montana. But mostly we're thankful to be able to talk with all of you. So Tom, great to talk with you, my friend. Big thanks to you and all your soldiers over there.
Well, thank you, Aaron. Hope you and your family are doing well, and Merry Christmas to everyone back in Montana.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well. All right. God, we are out of time. What an honor. A big thanks to Captain Bushnell and the whole crew at the Montana Guard for lining up those interviews. I know they're busy back there. They got a lot going on. So to be able to take some time out to talk with us back here in Montana, I know it means a lot to the families. I know it means a lot to those of us who are enjoying our Christmas here at home, and we want to know that you guys are being supported. So appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us. I hope everybody has a Merry Christmas, especially the families that are sacrificing so much for all of us.